Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeffrey Combs, 2 Tuesday. I have a very unique call today, and I'm going to add on to today's call. I have some additional content. I was reading a very unique book today, a book that I have never read before. I've owned the book for many years, and my assistant, Henry Klauke, suggested I look at a couple chapters, and I have read I've read the content in other books of David Hawkins, but he has two specific chapters, one on the razor's edge and another one on the experiencer. So right here is this book. It's one of Hawkins' smaller books as far as page count. It's written in 2007. Very, very good book, Discovery the Presence of God. And the chapters that are very unique is right here. It's called The Experiencer, right there. You see it? The Experiencer. Now, for those of you who know me, the Experiencer also means the payoff. So that is really good. And then chapter 7 is called The Razor's Edge. It's right there. The Razor's Edge. So this is really, really, now this is not for the novice or the person who does not understand consciousness, because it is very, very deep content. John King, good to see you. John, if you're new to my content, welcome to Tuesday Facebook Live. Michael O'Hagan, good to see you. So I was just covering from this book right here, Discovery the Presence of God by David Hawkins, one of my favorite authors. He has two chapters in there that are very unique, and so that content is also in another book of his, The Map of Consciousness Explained. So he covers the experiencer. Now, the experiencer in my content is the payoff. And my topic for today's Facebook Live is the adversity factor. And in addressing adversity, many people procrastinate when it comes to adversity because it's just too difficult for them. It's too hard for them. They procrastinate, they avoid, and they don't lean in or bend into it. They lean back and then go back and do what is familiar, avoid the perceived pain of what is not real, and then seldom break through. I'm in recovery of that myself. I was a practicing alcoholic for 14 years and had a story that I couldn't stop drinking. And I was also a pathological liar, a thief, a womanizer, a drug addict, drug dealer. That's a lot of content in one paragraph there, but that's where I was from 18 to 31 years old. And I created a lot of drama, a lot of chaos, DUIs, public intoxications, drug arrest, near drug arrest, hit and run accidents. I went from All-American boy athlete, honorable mention, all-state athlete in 2 sports, to absolute rock bottom in a 14-year period. And sobriety was the salvation for me. That was finding God, surrendering, letting go, and beginning the journey of recovery that is now going to be in its 36th year on December 18th of this year, 2024. And today is my 5th year anniversary of my wife and I being together. We've been married 4 years, and we met 5 years today. So very special day for me. Topic for today's Facebook Live is the adversity factor. If you are a student of David Hawkins and you do read his content, this is a book I recommend. It is not a book that I have read until just recently and started reading, but there's 2 chapters that are very, very deep. The content is extremely deep. The experiencer is the payoff, and the payoff is we recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings over and over, not understanding, not aware. We tell ourselves we don't know, and we recreate these situations to fulfill our trauma bonds and panic patterns that keep us in sensitivity, defensiveness, procrastination, and avoidance. Now, what the breakthrough factor is for you. So when it comes to adversity, the breakthrough factor is this right here. So there's a separation. If you can master this, the separation between participation and observing. So if you become the observer, you can let go. If you stay the participant, you'll recreate the same situation to fulfill the same feeling. So in Hawkins' content and my content, that is the difference between the content and the context. That's what most people do in their family dramas. They stay in the content of the family. They stay in the codependence of the family. They stay in the content of the job. They stay in the content of the situation, but they're not able to observe the situation in objectivity, see the situation for what it is, and then create a relaxed, structured plan, a daily method of operation to be able to address the adversity, to live in the solution rather than live in the problem. So right here, once again, to participate is to be in that situation. So if you're participating, you're in the content. But if you're observing, you start to understand the context. The context is the awareness, the understanding, the inner knowing. It means you begin to grasp the situation for what it is, and now you can practice the skill of letting go, the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them, so that you are not the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. So in my syllabus for today's Facebook Live, and if you're on my email list, I send this out every Monday. I send an update of what the Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Facebook Live will be. So here was the syllabus for today's Facebook Live. So point number 1 was attracting adversity. I am in recovery of that. I would create adverse situations to fulfill a neurochemical craving that I had created this. I'd create my own drama, and then I became skilled. That was my story. I became skilled at unwinding it. And then I would get this tremendous high. That would be the payoff from unwinding the drama that I myself would create, and I'd be able to walk away from an accident. A police officer would let me out of a ticket. An employer wouldn't fire me. They would give me a second chance. And it would be like this, woo! And so I became skilled at dodging bullets. That means I became my own adversity factor. Any of you relate to that? Create drama, then unwind the drama you created to recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. That is called the payoff. Now, I did not understand that at that point. I didn't understand it for the first 10 years of my sobriety. As I started to develop more improved skills, I started to have a better understanding of the cause that creates the effect of why I do what I do. And I began to observe the situation from a non-attached state. Now, here, that's the breakthrough factor right there, is non-attachment. So in any level of adversity in a husband-wife situation, it's important that the husband and wife communicate with each other rather than make each other wrong. And I too have been guilty of this on many times, and I'm going to be a much better husband and observe rather than participate, and remove myself from being right and be able to communicate better so that I'm not making someone else wrong. And see, when you're participating in that drama, then you recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. I've learned to do this with my customers, my clients, and even when someone's wrong, not make them wrong to prove I'm right. Now, if you can learn that skill yourself, then you can observe the situation differently from higher consciousness. Then the energy doesn't get drawn from you, doesn't get drained from you, doesn't get sucked out of your life. And then you're not in narcissistic relationships, narcissistic conversations with emotional and spiritual vampires that it's easy to get seduced by. When you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings, you are creating that separation so that you are not participating right there. So instead of participating in the content, you're down here observing, and you're in the context. The context is the understanding, the awareness, and the knowing. So you can see the situation for what it is, rather than being in the middle of it, feeling violated, feeling traumatized. How do I do this? How do I let go? It's not a how I am, how do I? It's an I am state of I'm the relaxed observer. So if one of your parents attempts to guilt or shame you, or someone in your circle of influence attempts to guilt or shame you, as the observer, you're not taking on that energy. You're able to observe the situation for what it is in a very relaxed energy and remove yourself from the situation without feeling angry, resentful, traumatized, victimized, overwhelmed, abandoned, or rejected. I want to recognize some of my clients here today. Kevin Woods, top tier client friend. Thank you for being here. Valerie, awesome. Shri, long-term client. Shri has been my client 9 years. I want to make sure that I recognize Shri. 9 years I've known Shri, an amazing woman who deserves to have her story told. And then I see my beautiful wife, 5-year anniversary today, Jana Ina Combs. Thank you very much. Her mother, Ramilda. I saw Pamela. I saw several of you on today's Facebook Live. Thank you very much for being here. I want you to know how much I appreciate as an observer having all of you that participate in my Facebook Lives every single day. I'm very, very honored to do that. So I'm in recovery of attracting adversity. If that is you, give me a fist five, a high five, a hug, and acknowledge that you're in recovery of attracting adversity and that you are no longer attracting those relationships, that you are no longer attracting those jobs or those employers or those customers or those clients. And when you do encounter them, you're not going to be as seduced or feel obligated or feel angry. You're able to let them go in a very relaxed presence where you don't feel violated or you don't feel obligated. You don't over-obligate yourself to someone who's not going to reward you. So in that situation, it means you're learning how to observe rather than participate. So you're no longer in the content. You're able to see the context, and that allows you to be in a relaxed body. And then you're learning how to breathe, release, and let go without being attached to the outcome. And so if you're having challenges finding a career, a job, or a business, you can observe this differently than being in the content of it and saying, no one's going to hire me. No business is going to work. I don't have the money to start the business. So you can observe that and say, my cash flow isn't as good as it could be right now, but I'm going to address that by living in the solution of it. So that's how you move from the content and being in the content and being in the context of it, seeing the situation for what it is, raising your level of consciousness, accessing the courage to be and stay in a relaxed body, separating your feelings from past traumas, and living in the solution, which is the emotional sobriety, the one day at a time recovery, and the higher consciousness required to be your best self in the most challenging times in world history. How do you handle adversity? That's number 2 right here. Well, you address adversity one day at a time, one situation at a time. Being skilled at adversity is one situation, but if you attract it and become good at it, that's not the objective. The objective is to be able to, when you're in any adverse situation, you're able to live in the solution of it. Whatever that solution is, you find it relatively quickly, and you learn how not to personalize the adversity. You're able to be in the non-attachment state of it while living in the solution and finding the best outcome for you or anyone that's part of that adversity. If you're in an adverse situation with a client, if a client's attacking you or whatever the situation is, you're able to sit right in the middle of it and hear what's meant, not said, do what you can to address the situation. Or if you have a very complex real estate situation or a very complex mortgage situation you're addressing or an insurance situation or whatever the situation is, you're addressing it to the best of your ability in a relaxed body, looking for the solution, not the problem. I also want to recognize my good friend and client, Amber Scavone. Amber is getting married this month. She's marrying one of my all-time best clients. They are a fiance, Amber Scavone and Rick, exceptional people. Rick Stout. Thank you, Amber, for being here this afternoon. I've been Amber and Rick's coach going on 8 years, so thank you for being here this afternoon, Amber. Good love to you, and they are getting married this month. So proud of you. Amber, the topic for today's Facebook Live is the adversity factor. Mike Green, good to see you this afternoon. So what I'm covering for those who are just joining me is the context and the content. So when you understand the difference between the content, so when you're in the content of what's happening, you're participating in it. But the separation is you move from participation to observe. So that if your mother is attempting to ruin your marriage, or if your mother is attempting to control the holiday situation, or if your employer is creating havoc in your business, or any multitude of situations, you're able to observe the situation for what it is. You're not personalizing it. You're the observer, not the participant. If you're the participant, you have relaxed back into being a child being criticized, not being good enough, where you'll be resentful, or you'll be sensitive and defensive, or you'll be angry, or any multitude of situations from the repressed feelings that we hold on to. And if you hold on to these feelings, which are repressed, that means that in the hippocampus of your brain, that's your short-term memory, that component of your brain has enlarged. Your amygdala, which is right here, which is also connected right there to your pineal gland. So your amygdala is your emotional search engine that searches for familiar feelings. That is shrunk. And then your prefrontal cortex was up in here. Your ability to decide and discern clouds the pineal gland right here. The pineal gland is your access to higher consciousness. So when you're in this brain fog, your pineal gland is shut down. Your vagus nerve is shut down, which connects from the neocortex of your brain to your gut. You don't have full capacity of your consciousness. You're operating only in fight or flight, and you're in the story. So the story is you're participating in a story that you require to let go of, because you want to be in a place where God has other plans for me. God does not intend for me to be victimized, traumatized, overwhelmed, a procrastinator, avoider. God has greater plans for me. And this book right here is just a tremendous book. The verbiage in the book is very deep. It is a very, very, very deep book. Oh, my man, Gary Agajanian. Gary's been my client going on 3 years now, Gary. Thank you, Joe. Joe Shermer introduced me to Gary. Both Jerry and Joe are on my call today. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And Joe, I'm very honored for the introductions that you have created for me over the years. Gary is top tier man and an exceptional wine grower, man of a deep character. Mike Green, reach out to Gary Agajanian. Gary is a Californian wine grower from Fresno and Napa. Mike Green is a top tier real estate professional in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. You deserve to meet each other. Joe Shermer, reach out to Mike Green as well. So a lot of great contacts on today's Facebook Live. I'm honored to be here with all of you. I'm going to go through the rest of the syllabus here today. Why do you attract adversity? Well, I'll tell you why I attracted adversity. Because I was always in trouble in many ways. As a child, I was never good enough. And so if you're never good enough, then you will tend to overcompensate and do situations that will lead to getting in trouble. And I got in more trouble after my teenage years than I did as a teenager. Let me retrace that. So I became more addicted to trauma and chaos in my late teens, 18 and 19. I didn't attract that, but once I got out on my own, I became independent. I became independently rebellious. And I started to rebel, and I had rage against the machine. And that rage against the machine is I rebelled against authority. And that authority was I was above the law. And that's why I attracted adversity. And then I would find ways to unwind it and get myself out of it. That's for you to determine the cause that creates the effect of why you've attracted so many adverse situations. And one of the situations that happens is that in adversity, we become drama addicts, and we attract to our life a lot of drama and trauma to fulfill our feelings. It creates the brain fog that we hold on to that allows us to fulfill the feelings of not being good enough. Letting go of conflict, that is also me. I was conflict conscious. I would find myself in conflict, and conflict for me was being right. I alienated and sabotaged many relationships because I was more connected to being right and righteous than I was being loving and joy and peace. And so that would fulfill my anger and fulfill this chip on my shoulder that I had carried since childhood. And when I started to dust that chip off at 31 years old in recovery, as I began to surrender and turn it over to my higher power, which I chose to call God, I realized that I didn't have to carry that burden as deeply as I used to. Rock bottom is overrated. I've been here a time or 10, and it is definitely overrated. You don't require to experience rock bottom. That is when the pain is great enough, although there are times when you are at rock bottom, you want that to be your last rock bottom. But just realize this, it's a very overrated place to be. When you have no credit left, you have no money left, you're being evicted, you're going through a divorce, a traumatic divorce with a narcissist, you've been fired, let go, can't find a job, multitude of situations. Whatever your emotional, spiritual rock bottom is, it's overrated. So the more that you're able to let go, thank you, Amber. Amber says, today I was put in a position of conflict that someone tried putting me in, let go of them in the situation easily. Thank you, Amber. That is awesome. Amber, you so deserve to meet my wife. My wife deserves to meet you. I'd love to facilitate that at some time. Mike Green and Gary are sharing phone numbers. That is awesome. Feel free to, all of you, to reach out to my conflicts. I am the 1 degree of the 6 degrees of separation. Feel free to reach out and create relationships through my database. I am honored that you could all do that. Letting go of anxiety, fear, and doubt. That is number 5 on the list. That is the academic situation where you move into, where you realize the pleasure is not worth the pain. Stacy, good to see you this afternoon. Honored to have been your coach about 3 years ago. So what you want to be able to do is, in anxiety, fear, and doubt, you access courage. So courage is a quality that you let go of. Courage is a quality that you access so you can let go of anxiety, fear, and doubt. Anytime you access courage on the scale of the map of consciousness, now consciousness is calibrated, all emotions are calibrated in hertz, Hertz, and cycles per second. So once you graduate up to courage, that's 200 cycles a second or 200 hertz, you are actually letting go in that energy, and that you are no longer the trauma bonds. And at courage, you're able to address adversity. But once again, you don't want to be so skilled at adversity that you attract and unwind it. You want to be able to let go of adversity or be skilled at it as it knocks on your door. And the more conscious you become, the more peace you seek, you should have less and less adversity. And number 7, the last point here, is always letting go. Always letting go is a skill set that you practice, and the practice of letting go comes from the mechanism of letting go, the inner game of letting go. And what you're letting go of initially is the mechanism of fight or flight that the body was conditioned to in childhood, where you relapse autonomically without even knowing you're in it. And you're able to let go of people with very clear boundaries. And in dating, mating, hiring people, teammates, soulmates, any multitude of situations, in the adversity factor, you're able to see people for where they are. You hear what they mean along with what they say, and you're able to let go without worry about the outcome. You're not worried about someone else's feelings, and you're not trying to hurt someone's feelings, but you're not worried about what they're thinking about you. You're at so much peace in your own humility that you're not worried about other people's feelings, and you're not out to hurt anyone's feelings, and you're able to be there in a relaxed body. John Wegman, good to see you this afternoon. Always a pleasure to have you, all of you, here on Facebook Live. My name is Jeffery Combs. I'm the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. If you're a former client or existing client and you'd like to speak to me about rehiring me or adding on to your existing coaching, I have a unique marketing package for the month of November. Reach out to me, or if you're first time and would like to speak to me, feel free to reach out to me. I would be honored to share that. A note for my wife is in day 22 of her recovery. She is now walking up to 45 minutes a day. She is wearing her regular clothes. She has one more visit to the doctor, and she is well on her way to those first 90 to 120 days of recovery from explant surgery. So I have a whole new context of what it means to witness a woman who has the courage to remove the toxic implants and the courage to find their inner beauty and to be their best self and let go of those situations. It's been an amazing experience to witness my wife's courage and participate in it with her mother. And it's really, that's the adversity. My wife told me the day that they took the tubes out, she almost passed out. So that was a lot of courage. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. This is a very, very deep book. Once again, for those of you who understand David Hawkins, I would recommend this, but this is one of his deepest books. So be prepared. A lot of big words, a lot of deep content. Chapters 6 and 7 in there are game-changing content. It's called The Experiencer and The Razor's Edge. I highly recommend that. Lisa, good to see you this afternoon. Once again, if you want to speak to me, reach out to me. If you've been on that bubble of thinking about coaching me, with me and you want to let go of that adversity factor, send me a message for a free 20-minute coaching session. I would be honored to with a no obligation conversation. Thank you for the content. I am so grateful. Thank you very much. Robert, my brother. Good to see you, Robert. Honored to be your coach and client. Good afternoon, everyone. Breathe, release, and let go.